didn't hear you breathe. I wonder how am I still here. And I don't wanna lose a thing. It might change my memory. And I won't go. And I can't breathe until you're resting here with me.
Travis Alexander was a 30-year-old American salesman from Arizona. In 2006, he met a stunning young lady named Jodi Arias at a marketing conference in Las Vegas. Travis invited Jodi to a company dinner that same night. She was bright and very sociable, and the two stayed up to 4 a.m. just talking to each other. The next morning, Travis told his friends that he had found his future wife. Soon, they were dating. Since Travis was a member of the Mormon church and had a conservative family, he asked Jodi to become a member of his church, which she did little over a month after they first met. Since they lived in different areas of the country, it was difficult to keep a steady relationship, so Jodi moved to California to be closer to Travis. On the outside, the couple seemed to have a great relationship, but there were some cracks under the surface. In the eyes of the church, they were both sinners for having sex outside of marriage, and this was an issue for Travis, who was deeply religious. In addition to this, Travis's friends started to disapprove of Jodi more and more. They described her as being obsessed with him, not even allowing him to talk to someone of the opposite sex. She would always follow him around and even went through his social media accounts on multiple occasions. After 5 months together, Travis broke up with Jodi. Some weeks later, she moved to Mesa, where he was living, and continuously showed up at his house unannounced. Even when he wasn't home, she let herself in through the garage door, and after he changed the code, she snuck in through the doggy door. At the same time, Travis started to date another girl named Lisa, but kept in contact with Jodi. Travis suspected that Jodi was trying to scare away Lisa by knocking on her door and windows before running away. Later, Travis also found his car tires slashed, but Jodi denied having anything to do with it. In early June 2008, Travis was supposed to go on a company retreat with another woman he was dating, but never showed up. By June 9, 5 days since his friends last had been in contact with him, they went to his house, only to find his roommate, who said he thought he was on the trip. When they went into his part of the house, they found his body crumpled in the shower. Travis had been stabbed at least 27 times. His throat had been cut ear to ear, and he had also been shot in the head. The friends immediately called 911 to inform the police.
What's going on?
A friend of ours is dead in his bedroom. We hadn't heard from him for a while. We think he's dead. His roommate just went in there and said there's lots of blood. I didn't go in, but I can give you the phone to someone who went in there.
Yes, please, can you?
Hello.
Hi, so what's going on?
He's dead. He's in his bedroom.
Okay.
In the shower.
Okay. How did this happen? Do you have any idea?
No, we have no idea. Everyone's been wondering about him for a few days.
She said that there was blood. So is it coming from his head? Did he cut his wrist?
It's all over the place.
Is there any weapons around?
No, I don't know. Not that I saw.
How many people are in the house?
How many of us? How many are in the house right now? Just the 5 of us? 5 of us.
Okay, I need all of you outside.
Okay.
Hold on just a moment. Okay, you're a good friend of Travis's, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has he been depressed at all? Thinking about committing suicide, anything like that?
I don't think he's been thinking he committed suicide. He's been really depressed because he broke up with this girl, and he was all upset about that. But I don't think he would actually kill himself over that.
Has he been threatened by anyone recently?
Yes, he has. Okay. He has an ex-girlfriend that's been bothering him and following him and slashing tires and things like that.
Within hours after Travis's body was found, Jodi called the Detective Flores, who was in charge of the case. He did not return the call that night, but called her up the next day.
2008-161-0804.
Hello?
Hello, can you speak to Jodi, please?
This is Jodi.
Hey, Jodi, this is Detective Steve Flores of Mesa, Arizona Police Department.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Good. I just got a message from one of my patrol officers that you needed to talk to me about something.
Well, I just wanted to offer any assistance that I might have. I was a really good friend of Travis's, and I just, I know that I don't know a lot of anything, but...
What have you heard so far?
I heard that he passed away, and that it was... I don't know. I've heard all kinds of rumors. I heard there was a lot of blood. I heard that his roommate found him, or his friend found him, or people were... I'm sorry. So I'm upset, but I've heard that nobody's been able to get a hold of him for almost a week, and that was about the last time I spoke to him too. Which is actually why I thought my friend said I should call you anyway and let you know the last time I talked to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any help we can get from anybody who had any kind of contact with him, any phone contact.
I used to talk to him quite regularly. I used to live there. I live in Northern California now. But after I moved a few months ago, and after I moved, we kept in touch very regularly, and kind of fell back a little bit, and it got down to about a couple times a week, but I hadn't heard from him. I talked to him on Tuesday night. I looked at my phone records on the internet to check, and I definitely talked to him Tuesday night.
Okay. So was that your cell phone, or?
Yeah, that was my cell. It's the only phone I have.
Okay. Is this the number that I called?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's important for the detective to be friendly towards any suspect at this stage. It's a thin line between asking the right questions and risking having the subject avoiding future contact with the police.
Any idea what everybody's talking about, what they're saying, what their suspicions are?
They're saying, everything that I heard was that, and I got a lot of my information from Bishop Layton, more details, and he's basically that they took everybody and separated them, and I don't know who everybody is. I'm assuming Zach, because he was there, and his girlfriend, because I called Zach's cell phone, and she couldn't tell me anything, but she answered. And she said, there are a lot of people here that I don't know, but Zach's not here, so it didn't make sense. And I was confused, but she couldn't tell me anything. So I didn't get a lot out of her, but Bishop Layton said he was there for 4 hours, and they interviewed everybody, and they all went to the police station, and that they're treating it as a suspicious death. And I heard from my friend Dave Hall that there was a lot of blood, and I don't know if that's just a rumor that's going around or true. And I also heard that his services will be in California, but that they haven't released his body to his grandma yet. So that's all I've really heard so far.
Well, I can tell you that we're investigating it as a homicide.
Okay.
And not a suspicious death anymore. It's pretty obvious. And it's important for us to find out why somebody would want to do harm to him.
Exactly.
What kind of stuff he was possibly involved in, or maybe it just could have been as simple as a burglary or an intruder or something that had gone wrong.
I'm wondering if he's still, when they said suspicious death, I thought, well, he's trying to shed pounds for Cancun, so he looks good in boxers or a bathing suit or whatever, or swim trunks. And, I know that he takes, or I thought he takes supplements, and he works out really, really hard. I've seen him work out. It's a very intense routine, and he has these heavy dumbbells that he uses, and he's so strong. I mean, there are a couple times we've tried to wrestle just for fun, and he showed me some moves, and there's just I don't see how anyone, unless maybe there were two people, I don't see how anyone could overpower him unless there was...
He's a pretty good-sized guy.
Some days later, the police found Jodi's fingerprints all over Travis's apartment, as well as a memory card containing photos of the two taken the same day as his death. Because of this, Jodi was taken in for questioning by the police.
Okay, let me get those off you. Can you stand up from me? Face down. Let me get you a bottle of water. Okay?
Thank you. Any chance you could get my purse?
Yeah, they'll get that from the house.
Will they bring it to me?
It'll probably be put in your property. There's water for you.
Do you want one for yourself?
Yeah, you'll be fine. There you go.
Can maybe turn the heat up in here? Or like, do you have a sweater I can borrow or something?
I don't have any sweaters. I'll see if I can turn it off. It's hard to control the heat in this building.
That's fine.
Sure I don't lock myself in here. So you remember me?
Of course I do.
I traveled all the way up here to come talk to you. Because, you know, I've been working on Travis's case ever since it happened. Okay, and I know exactly when it happened, when he was killed. I know a lot of details. And just recently we found quite a bit of evidence. And I'll discuss that with you. The main thing that I'm looking for, though, is answers on why certain things happened, why they went so far, and also to get your statements.
Okay.
A lot of details on this case that haven't been released to the public and not even to Travis's family. And those details are known only by us and the person who did it. Okay, and that's one of the reasons I'm here, is because I believe that you know some of these details.
Okay.
And I think you can help us.
I would love to help you in any way that I can.
Okay. Because we're here at the police department, the sheriff's department here in, was it Siskiyou County?
Siskiyou.
That's what it's called? Okay. And you're considered under arrest or detained. You're not free to go. And I'm a police officer. I have to read you your rights. Okay. I'm sure you've heard them on TV. You know, I have to read them off this little card here, but they're pretty much the same. And I'll explain them to you as we go. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just ask you some questions, ask you what you've been doing, you know, certain dates, what you were up to.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were traveling on some of these dates.
I travel.
I want to kind of clarify some of these things. And, you know, if there's a question that you don't want to answer, you don't feel comfortable, you can say no, you know, or, you know, you can elaborate as much as you want. It's completely up to you. It's at your speed. I don't want to pressure you.
Is this recorded at all, or should we?
I don't know if there's a recording or something.
I don't know if these are voice recorders. I noticed them. If they have video, or if they have audio, or batteries, or what.
I don't think they're on.
They're really cool.
It's
You
okay.
still heat still.
Yeah, I haven't touched those or anything, but
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're not on, so what I want to do is just get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know, okay? And you know, so I'm going to ask you some questions. You can voluntarily answer them if you want. Okay, is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine.
There was some question about you being. Well, let's start with this. What have you been up to since Travis's death? What have you been doing?
Well, I've been working.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been really working in prepaid legal. There's not a whole lot here in this marketplace, which is.
It's kind of small here.
It's small here, and really that could be seen as an opportunity rather than a hindrance, because that just means the market is untapped in a large way. So I could have if I wanted to, but I'm kind of like a deer in the headlights when it comes to prepaid legal, and I just have a fear of just approaching people. So I've been working at a Mexican restaurant in the north end of town. I've been I've been kind of in a daze, at least for the first few weeks.
Like everybody,
Yeah. I know that a lot of people have been posting on Facebook really nice things, and memories, and at one point I was like, well, maybe I should do that, so I posted this thing, and I just said all my memories, and I realized looking back on it that it kind of sounded immature. It's more of like my Dear Travis kind of letter, and so I took it down because...
More personal?
Yeah, some of it was details, a little bit more personal. Not too personal, nothing inappropriate. Just, I just felt funny. I think because I'm a photographer, I tend to communicate more through pictures, so I posted a ton of pictures that I had of him, and I have a ton more that I just can't access right now, and videos and things that I know his family would want, but, so I posted pictures and I took that down, and I posted something last week, but other than that, I've been on Facebook and MySpace a lot, looking at his profile, looking at his pictures, reading things about his obituaries and any news updates, and there's legacy.com where you can write something about him.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those postings.
I didn't realize until I actually spoke with Ryan Burns. He told the guy that's in Utah. And we've been talking a lot, and we try not to talk about that because it's kind of like, ugh. And plus, Travis is my ex-boyfriend, but at the same time, he's my friend. So while I'm mourning my friend, how do you talk to your new potential, possible, maybe person that you might start dating about your friend, even though he was your ex-boyfriend? So it's kind of a gray area. I try not to talk about him too much, but he comes up a lot. And it was through him that I learned that he said, if you come out to Utah, things are really weird because everyone thinks that you could have had a hand.
And I've talked to a lot of people, and everybody's pointing a finger at you.
I know.
Everybody is saying, I don't understand what happened to Travis. I don't know who killed him. But you need to look at Jodi. And sometimes the simplest answers are the correct ones.
At this point, there was no point for the detective to pretend that Jodi was not the main suspect. Notice how she, up to this point, pretended to be completely oblivious to the circumstances of Travis's murder.
And that's one of the reasons I started looking at you a little bit closer. And over the last month or so, I've gotten into Travis's life, talked to all his friends, his family. I got a really good understanding of who he is now. And I got a very good understanding of your relationship with him. And I'm kind of just putting two and two together.
Well,
and it kind of matches. So one of the reasons I'm here is to talk to you to figure out what was going on between you two. I know the relationship that you guys had was of convenience sometimes. Obviously you weren't boyfriend and girlfriend anymore, but you were still having a sexual relationship, which,
does his family know about that? Just curious.
No, his family doesn't know anything.
Okay. Yeah. I'm interested in protecting how he's remembered as well, and he was
well, I'm sure if Travis could speak right now, he wouldn't care what people thought about him, because they knew who he was. Okay? A sexual relationship here or there, because the fact he was a member of the church really doesn't matter.
A couple times I asked him
whole
if
range of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in the broad scope of things that could be right. I just think that the reason I care about that is because he was adamant about that. And a couple times we prayed about it, didn't work, or we didn't stick to our guns on it. And one time a girlfriend of mine just said, why don't you just go to your bishop and talk, and ask Travis the same. And I talked to him about it, and he got really angry. He said, I've already had problems with this in the past. I'm embarrassed by it. I don't want to go to my bishop. And so we just kind of stopped for like a few weeks, and then that must have been I think that was August, and then it just resumed.
Well, the way Travis thought, by getting into his head and everything that he's written in his journals and everything I found out about him, he truly had feelings for you. And for some reason, he felt that the relationship between you and him was somewhat unhealthy, but you couldn't stop it. And I assume that's probably maybe the same way you felt about him, or
It's probably,
maybe you didn't understand why he didn't believe it was healthy.
No, I didn't think it was healthy either, spiritually at least, and probably emotionally, but mostly spiritually. And I think that kind of, once you have something that's not healthy spiritually, it filters through all aspects of your life. It's one of the main, like there were three main reasons I moved back to Wairika, and one was I was in financial dire straits. I was not getting ahead, things were not working. Everything in Arizona was like, except for the wonderful friends that I made in my ward, and the opportunity. It's like the Mormon land of opportunity there, which is awesome, but except for all that, like every sign was pointing, just go, you know, I wasn't able to hold a job, and that had never happened before. Too much of my nightlife was about him, he would text me and, hey, I'm getting sleepy, ... Just a bunch of Z's, and that was his code to like, come on over kind of thing. Coast is clear, So, and that was just, I lived 5 minutes away, maybe 10, depending, and it was just too convenient and too easy, and it was fun, and we had fun when we were together, and so it wasn't healthy, and I totally agree with that. So that was one of the well, financially I wasn't doing well. I missed my family. I moved away shortly after high school, and I come back to visit, but I realized over the years I've missed out on a lot of things with my little brother and sister. I missed out on just their karate or their baseball or cheerleading or just whatever, and my dad is not doing well. He doesn't think he has very long to live, but he always says that. It's been that way for like a decade. He's still here, thank goodness. My grandparents aren't getting any younger, and I just have an awesome family. And I wanted to be able to just be here for a little bit and regroup financially. I owe my parents a lot of money, and I owe my grandparents a lot of money, and I owe friends money. I owe my the guy that I bought a house with, I owe him a lot of money. He doesn't ask me for it, but I intend to pay him back because he really footed the bill on the mortgage for a few months. And the third reason, and I like to put this third because I like to think that second to those reasons I would have been strong enough somehow, but the third reason was to put a physical distance between Travis and I, because I know that he really liked Mimi, and he said he did. I kind of felt guilty. I mean, I know they weren't dating, but I just felt guilty somehow, and I didn't know Ryan at the time. I met him in March in Oklahoma City, and it was just brief, and I remember seeing him and saying, oh, I really want to go say hi to him, but he was surrounded by people, and he was kind of unapproachable. And he says he remembers meeting me too, and it wasn't until Zion, my friend, texted me, and I think I told you that.
Notice how Jodi talks for long stretches of time to answer each question. This could be a way for her to try to control the narrative. It's also worth noting that Jodi had colored her hair dark brown just days after the disappearing of Travis.
Let's move to after the breakup.
Oh, okay.
What kept you in Mesa at that point?
I actually moved to Mesa a few weeks after we broke up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the timeline goes. But, I mean, if you want to call it our official breakup, shortly thereafter, it's like we were still seeing each
So
other.
you guys were seeing each other, but it was a long distance type relationship.
It was always long distance when we were officially dating. We dated from about the beginning of February to about the end of June. So February, March, April, May, June, about 5 months total.
Okay. In June of 2007, you guys broke up, and then
June
you moved
29th.
to Mesa.
Yeah, I moved to Mesa sort of.
Most people, when they break up, they kind of go their own way.
And plans were already in order for me to move there. I was already speaking with a friend who was, was going to be her roommate, and I was her roommate for a short time. She's kind of flighty. She's a great girl, though. I had talked to Travis about maybe going to Southern California instead.
Okay.
and he's really persuasive.
He persuaded you to stay there in Mesa?
He kind of was playing up all the advantages if I did come to Mesa, and if I did, he said, it's a great place. We could still see each other and hang out on occasion. This church is very strong. You'll make a lot of friends. And I already knew all this stuff prior because we talked about that. And so I went ahead and just made the move. It sounded at the time like a good idea.
And you guys continued to kind of see each other at that time?
Yeah, at the time I was sort of living more across town over by Greenfield. Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
It was up Greenfield near Broadway. Greenfield and Broadway were the nearest cross streets. And that's where the girl that I was originally talking with, I moved in with her.
Yeah, it's kind of far from
Yeah.
Travis.
The thing about her, and just to give you a background of why I moved suddenly, she approached me the weekend after I got there and said, hey, she knocked on my door, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. And she moved in with her boyfriend, and they were engaged.
Okay.
And she said, hey, I just wanted to let you know that Scott and I went to Vegas last weekend to tie the knot. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, we haven't told anyone, but we didn't want to live in sin, so we're gonna, and she had already been sealed in the temple once and was waiting for her cancel, or
Her sealing to be
to be canceled. So they were gonna have a civil wedding, on the beach in Oregon, and they did that the following weekend. She told me that on a Monday or Tuesday. It was the beginning of the week. And she said, the reason I'm telling you that is because I'm getting married this weekend, and I have to go out of town a few days ahead of Scott, to make arrangements. And now that he's a married man, we don't feel it's right that you be here in the house.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to inconvenience you, but is there any way you could stay with somebody else or just find another place? At the time I was waiting on a house in Gilbert, because I already knew they were getting married, so I was kind of looking anyway. And there was a great girl named Brenda, and she was waiting on her keys for the mortgage to go through, and it was a great ward, and it was a great house, and it was brand new construction and all that. It was really nice, but she didn't get her keys for months and months. I think she's in the house now, but I don't know, I haven't talked to her. So I scrambled. I went to the Institute, I wrote down a bunch of phone numbers, I called them all, a lot of them, I got voicemails. One girl that answered, her name was Tiffany, and she knew Travis, and she was at his services in Arizona and as well, and we've just remained friends sort of like on MySpace and Facebook and that kind of thing. But she said, hey, sorry, that's an outdated posting, I forgot to take it down, but go to this website. So ldshousing.net, I went there. I made 3 phone calls for the places that were within my price range. I didn't think to look where they were. The one girl that called me back, her name was Shannon Darricott. She said, here's my place, here's the directions, go ahead and go out and come see the house. It was available, so we did.
Oh, go ahead.
You have to get that?
No.
Okay. So I moved out there, and when Travis found out it was so close to him, he freaked out about it. And I made sure to check that it wasn't, that we wouldn't be in the same ward. And it was within his ward boundaries, but it was also within another singles ward boundary, so of course I'm gonna go the other one, because it would just be kind of weird. I mean, I didn't know about him and Lisa at first, so I don't know if they were even dating at that time. I don't know what their whole timeline was. But it still would have been weird, and it wouldn't have made Travis very
during that
comfortable.
time that he was seeing Lisa, did you continue to see him as well?
Yeah, and I didn't know that he was seeing her.
Okay. But he would call you and have you come over?
Yeah.
I know there was a time when you, I guess, were cleaning his house too for extra money or something.
Yeah, I did that.
He hired you.
Yeah, I did that, because he knew that I was struggling, and he's like, I've been doing the math, and that happened pretty much right on. I think that started in August. He's like, I've done the math, and I feel that I can be more protective. My time is more valuable than X amount of dollars per hour, so why don't I pay you this per hour, and I'll work, and you can make a little bit of money.
That kind of sums up the relationship that you had with him. It seems like
Especially,
he liked you, he loved you. He wanted to be with you, but he was reluctant to make a commitment first off. And truly, he didn't think that you were marriage material. And I don't know why not. I mean, I see you. You're a wonderful girl. You're struggling. You're trying to make your way through life, and I don't see why you guys couldn't have made it.
I think we have very different philosophies on a lot of ways. We would argue about the dumbest things, and like he would just want me to admit that he was right, and I would happily do that.
Well, that's
but
a man thing. That's.
And I should have just known better and admitted it. I eventually learned how to argue with Travis, and it's
Talk
yes,
to my
Travis.
wife. She's like, okay, fine, you're right.
Yeah,
You know,
eventually that's what I began to do with him. It's like the more I just agree with him, the sooner the argument gets over, and the sooner we can make up. And the makeup was always great. But there was so many times where I just couldn't wrap my mind around what he would. I could, but I would try to get him to do the same for me. Like there was a time when I broke down on the way to LA once when I was going to watch Chris Hughes do a training, and this was January, mid-January maybe of 2007, and my car got a flat tire. So I had at the time roadside assistance because my car was still under warranty, and they went to take the car in to change the tire and realized that when they sold me the car they didn't give me the wheel lock key.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for anti-theft there was wheel locks, so I had to get a hotel room, I had to get my car towed. It was a big nightmare, and I was kind of hungry. It was dinner time. It was 7:38 and it was dark because it was January. And the tow truck guy said, you know, there's a Denny's 2 blocks down here and there's a Jack in the Box there, and he was driving me to the motel. I said, is there an IHOP around? Because I really like IHOP. He's like, yeah, but it's kind of like 5 miles back in the other direction. I was like, okay. He's like, I can drive you there if you want. And I was like, he's like this short Mexican guy, and he seemed really harmless, and I was like, okay. And he, you know, and I asked him about his life, and he had a wife and kids, and so he wasn't flirting, or he had a girlfriend or something, I don't remember.
Just trying to be nice to you.
Just being nice. And so I ended up telling him, and he didn't ever come on me or ever say anything inappropriate, and then he drove me back and dropped me off, and that was that. And I got to eat. And so I told that to Travis, and he didn't say anything at first, but it got back to Sky, and Sky was like, why didn't you call me? And then I think eventually that was used against me to establish a pattern that I do weird things like that. So that's something we had arguments about a lot, was he's like, I just think that
So he was truly upset with you about that. He
and
felt a little jealous, but.
he told me once that he was a little bit jealous when he found out that I went on those dates. He's like, but I know we're not dating. And he's like, I guess I am a little bit jealous, but with these other incidences, he said it just concerns him.
Okay.
Because he thought that I would get myself into a situation where I'd get hurt because I have that sort of attitude. And I was really, since I joined Prepaid, I've been really trying to break out of my bubble and do things that are a little uncomfortable as far as talking to people. And, you know, I made a resolution this year to overcome a few fears that I have that I'm really scared of. So I think that by getting into that a little, then I can, you know, overcome some of that. But he did act jealous, but he wouldn't say he was jealous. He would just say he was concerned.
But he would tell other people about it.
What do you mean?
Did he tell Sky Hughes?
Oh yeah, I guess it got.
Chris about
I
it?
may have told Sky about that.
But they probably had a conversation with him, and he probably voiced his opinion.
They had
on how
many
he didn't like it.
conversations. I know that him and Sky had a lot of fights and arguments, and I was the root of that a lot of time. But I think, you know, all in all, they, especially more recently, they got along a lot better. I think she gave him a really hard time about our relationship. So that's one of the reasons he really wanted to keep it under wraps.